Hey, Molly, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited. It's been a while since I've brought someone on to talk about social media. And I feel like a lot of people, I talk about SEO on this podcast. And when I recommend to my clients different social media strategies connected with SEO, some of them are like, wait, but you're an SEO expert. What do you mean social media? And I'm like, no, you need to be good at your social media. It's going to help with your SEO. So
Yes.
that's why I'm really excited to talk to you today, just to like bring these two things together and like talk about the relationship. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and yeah, tell us about what you do.
Yeah, so I'm excited to have you on my show actually coming up soon too, because I want to learn from you the opposite side. Like, I can tell you how to optimize your Instagram, but I'm still unclear on like the relationship it has and the impact it has on your SEO and all that. So I can't wait to have that conversation with you later. So hopefully, maybe by the time this comes out, that episode will be out. Maybe not. So thank you so much for having me. I've been in this online business world for about 4 years, and I work with solely health and wellness professionals right now. And whether that be brick and mortar or online health and life coaches or like the spiritpreneurs, if you will. And I got my start. I feel like this is like same story, but just like a slightly different. Like, were you a former corporate girl,
Yes, I
Cynthia?
am.
Yeah, I feel like somebody like, well, I used to be in corporate. Like that's feel like it's everybody's story. So yeah, I was in outside sales for 9 years, medical sales for the last six, making great money, right? But I was just like never home, and I worked all the time. I drove literally 1,000 miles per week, 1,000 miles per week. Yeah. I sold my car, it had or traded it in, it had 204,000 miles on it. Yeah, right. It was like to the point where I'd be like, I'd be at a Marriott and they'd be like, "Do you want to put this on your room?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's your room number?" I'm like, "I don't know." Like, I don't know what room I'm in this week, you know? And so when I got pregnant with
Regular.
my daughter, yeah. When I got pregnant with my daughter, my husband's, we thought we like had outsmarted the military wife system. And I'm like, I don't know why these people have babies when their husband's going to be deployed. Hello, that was us. So my husband left when I was 38 weeks pregnant for 6 months. His deployment had gotten shifted. And anyway, our lovely quote planning didn't really work out. So I was like, there's no way I can be at the time we were stationed at San Diego. And I'm like, there's no way I can be in San Diego, no family, working this same schedule with a baby. And even if I could, like, I don't want to, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I don't want to have a full-time nanny. Like, I don't want, um, so I quit with no plans of what I wanted to do next. And when my daughter was about a year old, I was like, okay, I can't be a stay-at-home mom. This is like the hardest job ever. And my chiropractor and I became friends, and she asked me to help her with her Instagram, and the proverbial, the rest is history. So now we run, as of July, it'll be 29 Instagram accounts. We just signed two more for July. And so we have a full service Instagram management agency. I have an awesome team who helps me, and they finish my sentences. They're just incredible. And then I also have a program called Holistic Marketing Hub, where I teach you everything you could possibly need to know about creating an effective marketing strategy on Instagram. But the hub also includes this giant copy and paste content library that's like health content, life coach content, stress, women's health, chiropractic, you name it, it's in there. So there we
Awesome.
go. I
I
tried to
love
make it
it.
short, but it wasn't.
No, I
uh,
since I became a mom, I also feel like I've attracted more moms and
mm,
just like the mom business life. That yeah. So like I said, I shock my clients when I recommend like, yes, do your SEO. That's what we're talking about. But you need to have, if you want to have a presence on one of these social platforms, you need to have a
mhm,
strategy and you need to think about how it's all connected. So one thing which you mentioned, I think is just a great starting point, is this relationship between keywords and how they work on something like Instagram versus something like Google.
mhm.
And so what are your thoughts around that? Like, if someone was to take their
Yeah.
SEO keywords and be like, okay,
Mhm.
can I repurpose these or use them in
Mhm.
some way when I'm creating Instagram content?
Yeah. So if you're not familiar with Instagram keywords, they're relatively new. I want to say it's been 2-ish years. Do you know since when they started
Yeah.
keywording it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So before about 2 years ago, the only way a post could be categorized was from a hashtag. So I always use the green smoothie example. So now, if you're more of a visual person and you're unsure what we're talking about, if you open up your Instagram app and you go to the search bar and you start typing in the word green smoothie, you'll see a little magnifying glass if it is keyworded. So that's the one thing I've seen is, and again, I mean, I haven't like gone in detail and rigorously checked everything. But in the beginning, it's like certain things wouldn't even be keyworded in
Right.
Instagram. It's like they were rolling it out.
Right.
For example, for a long time, functional medicine wasn't keyworded. Like if you typed that in, there was no magnifying glass accompanying it.
Right.
Um, I'm sure it is now. I haven't checked. But the green smoothie example, if you type in green smoothie in the hashtag or the search bar, you'll see the little magnifying glass come up. And if you tap on it, you'll see all posts that either have green smoothie in the graphic because AI can pick up what words are typed in your graphic. Maybe the photo is of a green smoothie. It can also pick that up. Maybe the words green smoothie were just written out naturally in the caption. Or maybe hashtag green smoothie was used as a hashtag. All of those things can play into what comes up in keyword search.
Right.
Whereas if you go to the search bar and just type in hashtag green smoothie, you'll see, I just find this so fascinating, different results, but they're all still green smoothies, but they're different results. And those are only posts that have used the green smoothie hashtag. So it confuses people. They're like, wait, what? I'm like, I know. That's why anytime you see somebody telling you hashtags are dead, they are wrong because I I always say, listen to the people who are still actively doing the thing you want to do, not somebody who made it big, like 2 or 3, 4 or 5 years ago,
Yeah.
because, they can post a photo of a fried egg on toast and get 5,000 likes. You know what I mean? Like the people who have been like, quote, grandfathered in and are like, it doesn't matter what they post, they're going to get tons of engagement. I always say like, don't listen to their marketing advice because it's probably outdated. Hashtags are absolutely not dead. And I know it's not the question you asked, but
Yeah.
it still gives hashtags are included in Instagram's keyword search.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you are, let's say you're a gut health coach who focuses on PCOS, and the post you're writing, the caption doesn't have the words PCOS anywhere in it. The graphic doesn't have it. Like it's maybe an adjacent topic, but then you still use a PCOS hashtag. You're still giving the algorithm more information that like, hey, like this is all tied in, almost like you would do with Google SEO content pillars.
Yeah.
So there's my
It
long answer.
sounds like my analysis as an SEO expert is that maybe what Instagram is doing is they have, just like Google's algorithm, different factors, different triggers, right? And in SEO land, we call it like multiple algorithms within the algorithm. It's like all these different things. And so they launched this keywords thing to be able to identify different posts and topics and all that. But there's more than one factor. It's not just like just do
Yeah.
one thing. It's like you've got multiple touch points. And so it's important to take advantage of them all in an honest and genuine way. And that's all it is. Like it's not a secret, like there's no secret
Yeah.
tab.
And you're not going to outsmart it. Like at this
Yes.
point, like I always say you're not going to outsmart any marketer who's telling you to like outsmart the algorithm or hack the algorithm. Like I'm sure you've seen with like hack Google's algorithm. You're not going to hack it. Like you're not smarter than it. You never will be. Um, so my best advice, just like you said, is I would say two things. One, hashtag green smoothie is actually a terrible hashtag. Don't use that unless you're Kardashian because it'd be like trying to rank on the first page of Google for that, So I tell my clients to stay under the 250,000 use mark for hashtags. Just because lower competition is always better, as I'm sure you're always advising people Now, once you get more followers, like maybe you're above like 25,000, you can go higher, just like you would tell people with their page. Like once you get a higher, what is it? Domain authority? I don't even know what I'm talking
Mhm.
about. Is that right? You could use
Yeah, an
higher
authority, it could
competition
be.
or
Yeah, yeah.
whatever. Yeah. I don't know. Not me, but I'm always like, stay low and
Mhm.
just type into the search bar, like hashtag green smoothie, like for breakfast or something like that. Might be like
Yeah,
a smaller,
more niche, yeah.
less saturated version.
Mhm.
And then because you can use up to 30 hashtags, we still almost max out. I mean, I don't always. Like earlier I posted and I was like, I only feel like putting in like 6 or 7. But you're absolutely not going to be penalized for using all
Mhm.
30 hashtags if you need to give that post a little more
Mhm.
context.
Mhm.
And then the other like quick piece of advice I would have is with SEO, we obviously know it's a long game, right? So if you're, let's say, a lifestyle blogger, it's probably a lot harder now than it used to be because you might have different content pillars. Like, oh, I want to talk about fashion and I want to talk about
Right,
food and I want to talk about like, it might be like, oh, well, what's this account
right.
about? The same thing goes. Like we've had, and I'm not saying don't do this because I want your account to be fun and I want you to have fun with it. But like, of course, I had a reel go viral. That was my husband's last flight as a helicopter pilot in the Marine Corps.
Oh.
I'm like, that has nothing. Why did I post that as a reel? Like, it has nothing to do with my business. And now I've got all these random followers. And like I said, it's not a bad thing. I mean, like maybe it brought me some military spouse health and wellness professionals. I don't know. But that would, I guess, be my other piece of advice is like, I'm not saying you have to have a super narrow focus where you can't talk about anything else ever, but that more random content, I usually say stick to your stories. So you're not really confusing like, what is her account about?
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of people have this dream of going viral, and then I've heard people, they go viral and they get so many random, it like skews a little bit their audience, and it can end up
Yes.
just creating a not the best effects, like after effect,
No.
like side effects, I guess. Like, yeah, you
No,
might.
it can be tough. We had one of our brick and mortar chiropractor clients who's a pediatric chiropractor. She filmed a video with the baby doll of like the proper way to change a diaper, like, so you're not putting too much stress on the baby's spine. And it
Oh.
went viral. It got like 3.2 million views. And now the majority of her followers are from India. So I'm like, crap. And it's not like that wasn't relevant to her business. It was. So it's like, you really never know. And there's nothing you can do to control it. So don't obsess over it. But going viral is not always what you think.
Yeah, it's not about the biggest numbers, right? It's hard
Right.
because we all want, I don't know, it's this addiction thing. I think
It
like that's
is.
one of the you just want to grow and grow, and there's just something about seeing 20K followers. It's just like, like I think it's an ego thing. But
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like you could actually have 500 followers or like 200 followers and actually be great in this great place where you're interacting. And I've heard a lot of people how like when you have a smaller audience, it's just like it's more intimate, and then when it gets bigger, there's other like pros and cons. And anyway, yeah, so I guess it's hard just stepping outside of the ego and really focusing more of the quality of your engagements
Yeah.
and your DMs too. Like no one talks about that, is like, are you getting DMs? Or people actually buying, like from Instagram if possible, right?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. We had a fairly new Instagram management client who messaged us. Her 3-month minimum commitment was coming up, and she's like, "Hey, like, I'm not really getting that many comments. Like, I just kind of want to check on y'all's in. Like, I know you know what you're doing." And I'm like, "That's a great question." And then we showed her actual statistics, and she was like, "Oh," I'm like, "Your website clicks are up." It was like 7,000% or something like that. Insane. I mean, when you're starting with small numbers, it always like looks sexier than it. But her website
Right.
clicks had way, 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 way increased. Her reach had way increased. And for those of you who don't know what reach is on Instagram, it's just simply the amount of unique people who saw your post. So, I mean, think about all the silent lurkers out there who just scroll, see your post. They don't double tap, they don't comment, they just keep scrolling, but they saw it, right?
Right.
So that number is captured in reach. Like her reach was through the roof. Her profile visits were really high, and profile visits means you posted something and somebody liked it enough to click on your profile to see what other types of content you have. So those are all like not as sexy on the surface because other people can't see them, but I know a lot of broke popular people, you know?
Yeah, and I was just thinking now that suggested feature where you don't have to follow someone, like you'll see you'll see them in your feed,
Oh,
right?
yeah, uh-huh.
I've bought things from that. So I wasn't a follower. I never commented, I never DM'd. It wasn't, no, I think I actually did buy something from someone that I just got suggested from the Instagram algorithm. And I found that fascinating because I think I followed her after I bought. I might not have even followed her, but like there have been some instances where I've shared something or I've like done these other, like, to me, they're like golden metrics. Like I call them, and what I do is like, what's your gold metric? Like it's not followers. It's not even, likes, obviously not. It might not even been comments. It could be, like you said, like profile views or how many people are clicking to your website or signing up for something, through Instagram. So it's fascinating how, yeah, people focus sometimes on the wrong numbers. And
Yeah.
even focusing on the numbers, it's just one view, right? Then you've got
Oh
all
my
the
gosh.
qualitative data that you want to look at as well.
Yeah, I always say never judge based on one piece of data, which I'm sure you say the same, like never
Yeah.
judge on one page or one blog post because you'll make yourself crazy. You just kind of have to zoom out and look at something from like a 16 or 30, 60, 90 day and say, am I trending upward or downward? You know, the
Yeah.
whole like, this is popular marketing advice that I actually don't agree with.
Ooh.
Well, if you don't know what to post, go back and see what's performed well and do more of that. I'm like,
Oh, interesting.
mm, that's not actually accurate because we've literally, for two reasons. One, we've literally posted the exact same reel for a client like 6 months apart and gotten different results,
Right.
like wildly different results. And everybody's like,
Right.
well, what was the difference? I'm like, it, you can't, if you could pinpoint it, we'd all be millionaires. Like I would, you know what I mean? Like, with, that was like, stop trying to quote, hack the algorithm. So that's why you have to be consistent. And I say, look at your body of work over a period of time. And then the other reason I don't like that advice, it's because the sexier, clickbaitier content is typically not the stuff that leads to, yeah, it might achieve that like no, maybe even the like of like no like
Mhm.
trust, but the trust comes from like your more in-depth carousels that maybe somebody
Mhm.
took the time to swipe through and read but didn't comment or didn't like,
Right.
maybe didn't get as much engagement, didn't get as much reach.
Mhm.
That more in-depth content that's like not as sexy on the surface is going to look like, oh, this didn't quote do anything, when really that's why I teach a content ecosystem model. I don't teach content pillars, because you do need that type of content that like on the surface you're like, oh, that flopped, but like it probably didn't. I don't know. I'd love to hear your take on that.
Yeah, no, I think so. What I talk about in SEO, and it's very similar with Instagram, is like, what's the content for your new person, someone who's discoverable content, right? So there you have
Yeah.
different goals versus someone who's been hanging out with you for a week, a month, years. Like, how are you pinpointing those different people? Because they are building a relationship with you and they are at different points in the relationship. It's like that first date versus getting married with someone. You want to hear
Yes.
very different things. I mean, they should be in the same line, but it's a different conversation, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe that's what you're talking about too, is
It
like
is.
we all want that. Maybe we want the marriage content, like, oh, just like give it, like, I want you to hire me, blah, blah, blah. Or maybe we're focused too much on like that new first date where it's like very exciting and it's kind of like, yeah, like everything's per whatever they call it, like the moon
Yeah.
phase, the, the
For
moon
your,
phase.
I don't know if you do your own editing or not, but like there's the videogram for the episode right there. Like that's like the
I
best
have to
nugget
note
right
the
there.
time. Yeah.
I'm gonna use your term discoverable because
Yes.
that's what reels are. Reels are great for being discovered and they are great for going more in depth too.
Yeah.
But if you just were to look at your metrics, typically your shorter, snappier, trendier reels are going to get more views,
Hmm.
whereas your longer, more in depth might not. Not it's not like a hard and fast rule, but in general. But that's kind of the stuff. The longer, more in depth stuff is what's typically going to get somebody to trust you. And then like, okay, she is an expert. Okay, we'll hire her.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so I like this idea of the ecosystem, like you call it, because you're focused on the whole package. And
Exactly.
that's what I see also in SEO. It's not, it used to be you could like hack certain parts and make progress, but these algorithms are advanced. These are advanced platforms, right? So they're smart.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day. So my last thing I wanted to kind of talk about is, and I get asked this a lot, is how people search in Instagram versus in Google. Because there's
Ooh.
certain types of businesses, and this kind of relates to what I was saying at the beginning. If like someone's listening to this and they're like, I like Instagram and I spend time with my SEO, but I feel like I need to prioritize, right? And so here we talk about, okay, do they use Instagram, right? Like, does your audience use Instagram? Because there are certain types of audiences that don't.
Exactly.
But on top of that is like, how are they searching, right? So something like Google, I'll talk about the Google side, is like, if you're a location-based business, yeah, you need to have a Google business profile. You need to be showing up for your location searches, like chiropractor in Chicago or something like that, right? Would someone use Instagram search in that way? Maybe. I don't know. I don't think so,
Yeah.
but I'm curious to hear your thoughts about that, like the search, the SEO component in Instagram of like searching, right?
I think it's getting there. As somebody who's moved a lot being military, I have always found a lot of more visual, when I say visual service provider, like my hair
Yes.
person,
Yes.
photographers through
Yes.
hashtags.
Yeah.
Um, but now you can get to where you do search. So I always advise, if you're looking at your profile and you tap the edit profile button, you'll see two things. You'll see more than two things, but when you see username and then you'll see name. Username is your @ handle and name is that what shows up in bold on the top of your bio. A lot of people think the bio portion is searchable. It's not. Like, it might play into search somehow on the back end of the algorithm. I'm sure it does,
Right.
but you don't need to be using hashtags in your bio. Like, that's not going to do anything for you unless, like I said, let's say you are a photographer. I had a photographer once who, I don't work with them photographers anymore, but she was the prime example of when you would want to use hashtags in your bio, because they did portrait photography, weddings, and family.
Right.
So they had a hashtag for each types of their photography.
Right.
So when you clicked on the hashtag, it was like a gallery of their work. But
Right.
if you just want to put like hashtag chiropractor, all you're going to do is have them
Yeah.
go see other chiropractors. Like, it's not going to help you. Or like hashtag gut health. Like, they're just going to go to other gut health coaches.
Right. Right.
So that username and the name line are the only two things that are like highly searchable.
Right.
So I always say, not keyword stuff isn't the right word, but like, you don't really want to use your username, be changing your username a lot, the @ handle, unless, like, for me, I haven't linked way too many places. If I were to change my handle, it would be like, I just have to go change a million links. Not saying I can't do it, but that name line is a really beautiful place to put like Cynthia SEO for health coaches. And you don't want to put, I see people putting like random credentialed acronyms.
Right.
And I'm like, that probably meant a lot to you. And I'm not saying you didn't work hard to get that, those letters behind your name, but like, I'm not searching for that.
Yeah.
So that name line is the place to put like, health coach for diabetics, or like, you know what I mean? Like, something people are actually going to be looking for.
Right.
And if you are, local based, which I don't know I know you don't have a ton of brick and mortar in your audience, but I always say try to fit in three things. I'll use the chiropractor example. I have a client whose name is Dr. Derek Libby. He is in Poway, California, and his business name is Activate Chiropractic. So there's three things people might be searching. They might not know his business name. So they might just say, hey, yeah, I'm searching for Dr. Derek Libby on Instagram. Can they find him that way? Yes. Do they not know his name and they know his business name? I'm searching for Activate Chiropractic. I find him that way. Do they not know either and they're just looking for chiropractor Poway?
Right.
That shows up. So Yeah. And even if, to your question, Cynthia, even if people aren't searching Poway chiropractor, if there's a million Activate chiropractics.
Mhm.
So if you type in Activate chiropractic and people aren't taking advantage of that name line properly,
Yeah.
what's going to show in search would be like, if I just had Molly Cahill in my
Mhm.
username and the name line,
Right.
that's all that's going to come up. Whereas now, if you search for me, you'll see Molly Cahill, Instagram and email marketing
Right.
as like the little preview text.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
even if it's not something they're searching, it's like, okay, there's 10 Activate chiropractics. How do I know which one is the one I'm looking for? It's that like pre-header text
Mhm.
almost is what
Yeah,
the
yeah,
name
like
line.
the meta head, yeah,
Yeah.
meta
And
description, I
it
guess.
you used to only get 30 characters, which was always interesting because I was always like trying to like finagle as much as, but now you get like up to 50.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the name
Yeah,
line.
and Instagram does track your location, right? So if you're
Mhm.
looking for like let's say you're in whatever, Chicago, you're looking for a chiropractor and I put chiropractor and I'm in Chicago. And then there's like that places thing too, right? So
Yeah, I have to be honest, I haven't used that or dabbled with it at
yeah,
all,
yeah.
but I'm curious.
But they do
Uh,
show you but based on location. I had this experience when my daughter was born. I was looking for a um lactation specialist. I think
mhm.
that's what it's called.
Mhm.
And yeah, like whatever, these women who are incredible helping with breastfeeding. And
Yes.
I searched I just searched in Spanish, and I'm in Argentina, and
Mhm.
I found people in my area. So I was like, okay, they Instagram knows I'm here. I mean, I guess I could hire a breastfeeding person in the US and she could help me virtually.
Right.
But certain services, it's like this person came to my house. It was just a very intimate
Yeah.
experience, right? So I think there is that, but I still see a big difference. And so I always tell people like, yeah, the intent is, and I would say Google is a little more advanced in just how
Mhm.
many
It is.
words you can use and like yeah, Google has a little more time in their pocket as well of like developing this algorithm and looking at that search intent and all the different factors they look at, right? So,
Yep. Yep. And I always tell if you're virtual, I always tell people to have your location. So obviously I work out of my home. I don't have my address on my profile, but like I still have the city
right.
in the state because you never know. I mean, I had a client who wanted to hire me from Australia and then they ended up not hiring us. And even though she's lovely and I would have loved to have had her as a client, I was a little bit relieved because I'm like, how are we going to talk? Like, if I need something, like, what time are we going to be able to hop on a call? It's going to be like
Yeah.
7 p.m. here, 9 a.m. So sometimes people just, the proximity, you never know. Like, that just, even
Yeah.
if they never meet you in real life, sometimes it just helps to have your
Mhm.
location. At the very least, it gives you something to have in common. Be like, oh, I
Right.
used to live in Cincinnati, or I used to live in, people like to talk about stuff like that. So,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Oh, so many good tidbits. I like thinking for my own Instagram.
yeah, I know. I can't wait to interview you.
Uh,
I'm going to be like, I'm going to be selfish with my interviews. I'm just going to ask you all the questions I've had for my
behind the scenes, everybody get a podcast because it gives you free advice for your business. Like that's
Yeah.
why I have a podcast. Thanks so much, Molly. Okay, so tell us a little bit where we can find you and yeah, anything else, any other links you want to share
Yeah.
with the audience.
Yeah. So I have a $27 private audio it's a 5-episode private podcast called Holistic Marketing Roadmap.
Cool.
So if you just go to mollycahill.com/private training, I've had even students and people who've been with me for years be like, oh, I'm like, all of this I've already taught you. But it's like something about
Yeah.
having that podcast format and then having it sequential, you know what I mean? Like being
Yes.
in a certain order. So yeah, I've gotten really
Yes.
good feedback on the roadmap. So yeah, like it's just that's where I would start. It's just mollycahill.com/private training. Um, and then also come say hi on Instagram. I'm just at Molly A. Cahill. Hey, the normal Molly Cahill was taken, and I would really like to. Speaking of the search being off, I wasn't showing up in search when you
Oh,
searched my name
no.
because of the A in
Oh,
my username. It's that finicky. So that's why I had to add it back in the name line. So my final tip I'll leave with your people is Find somebody who's not following you and has like not in your network and have them try to find you
Oh,
on
that's
Instagram.
smart. Yeah.
If they
Yeah.
can't find you, you got to tweak something. I
That's
was so embarrassed. I'm like teaching to this big room full of doctors, and they're like, we can't find you on Instagram. I'm like, you're just clearly not spelling my last name right. And they were.
You're not using Instagram right. Like you don't have a
Yeah. I was
search.
like, they're probably spelling my last name wrong. Like, oh no, it was, yeah. Lesson learned.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
No, thank you, Cynthia.